welcome to Mobile Monday at Home. This is our first edition for Mobile Monday. And today we have Stefan Kojouharov, founder of Chatbots Life and Chatbot Conference. And we're hosting Stefan today for a mid-year update on the bot trends in the ecosystem. We'll cover a little bit about the start of the chatbot platforms, the applications of bots that became successful, and use cases and current trends where adoption is growing and where enterprises are using them. So please welcome Stefan to the show. And first question here, Stefan, tell us a little bit about Chatbots Life and how it got started.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It's very excited to be a part with you guys. So a little bit about myself and Chatbots Life. I'm the founder of Chatbots Life. We started in 2016, right after Facebook announced that they would be adding bots to Messenger. And that was like really the first catalyst of bots becoming a part of the mainstream conversation here in the US. If you go back and you can see a lot of Chinese apps were using bots, Line, Telegram was using bots as well. And then finally, that's our founding story. And we quickly became one of the top blogs for chatbots. Right now, I think we're like either one or two worldwide in terms of traffic, and in terms of content, we're probably number one. And then we also later, like about a year after that, we started the Chatbot Conference, which is designed to give everyone in the industry like an update of like where we are, like what are the best use cases, how are enterprises and how are people using this technology, like where's the actual value. And then once you have an idea of what that is, then we train you how to create chatbots, whether it's developing them, designing them, and then extracting that value for your company, or if you're an entrepreneur, for yourself.
Awesome. Thanks, Stefan. So give us a little history on what sparked the bot ecosystem and drove interest into the developer community.
So it's a great question. So I think there was a pretty defining moment when Facebook first announced it in 2016. And I think part of the reason why they announced it and part of the reason why they started going that direction is because they saw the power of what WeChat was doing. So if you're familiar with like WeChat in China, and you can do this now, and you could have done this like maybe even a decade ago, but for sure 5-6 years ago. Everything happens on WeChat, which is like a messaging platform. And that includes like you ordering food, getting a babysitter, getting someone to groom your dog, right? And basically like you could think of WeChat as a messaging platform that combines the power of messaging, say with the power of like Yelp, with the power of Facebook, right? So all of a sudden, like not only can certain types of posts go viral, kind of like you have on Facebook, like things go viral, but also like local services can go viral, right? A local cuisine or a local sandwich or a pizza place could go viral. And that's what Facebook was seeing with WeChat. And then on WeChat, everything happens through that chat interface. Like, for example, let's say you have a little puppy and the puppy needs a haircut. Like you go on WeChat, you find the dog grooming service, you message them on WeChat, schedule the appointment on WeChat, you read their reviews on WeChat, you pay them on WeChat, right? Later on, you post a picture of how the dog looks before and after on WeChat. All your friends see how cute your little dog is now on WeChat. And then that service provider provides even more services on WeChat. Maybe that dog's haircut goes popular. And so Facebook is seeing this, and then they're also seeing that the amount of time that people are spending on messaging apps is like skyrocketing. Like messaging apps were growing substantially faster than the social media apps were a decade before. So now you have this combination of like everyone spending their time on messaging apps. There aren't any businesses on messaging apps. And then simultaneously in another ecosystem of sorts in China, they merged these two things and they extracted and created an enormous amount of business value and value for people. So that's how we got started.
Awesome. No, awesome.
Yeah.
It's great to know, like, at least what was the driver, at least for interest. So we've had, a lot of high hopes in the bot economy back in 2016, Microsoft CEO Satya says, bots are the new apps. They're certainly on the rise. We had Mark Cuban last year at South by talk about, mention, say, look, if I were going to start a business today, I'll build it around Alexa and Google Home.
Yeah.
So a lot of hype. So what has happened? So what's happened in the bot economy?
It's a great question, because what happened was in 2016, so Facebook announces this, right? And now they're going to let everybody come in and create apps on Messenger. So all of a sudden you start to have all these bots. And if you know the peak of, if you know the hype cycle, right? So initially everyone gets really excited and they think that, bots are going to replace all the apps, right? All 5 apps that you use daily on your phone, right? And that didn't happen because the use cases weren't strong enough, right? But what we did discover is where they provided value. And in the very beginning, like essentially, if you think about what a chatbot is, right? And this also kind of applies to some degree with voice bots like Alexa or Google Home. But the essential value of a chatbot is that it can automate communication. And it can also automate some of the tasks that go along with communication. So like when you and I decided to set up this meeting, we would have to communicate back and forth like, hey, Mario, when are you available? Oh, Stefan, I'm available on Monday, and so on, right? Now you have like bots essentially, and a good example of this would be like X.AI. It lives in your email address. It could automatically talk to your email and send you and handle that conversation for you automatically, right?
Yeah.
So an example of like an email chatbot. It automatically takes communication, it automates certain parts of the communication process, and it takes an action on behalf of the user, in this case, setting up an appointment. And that's been a really, really great example of like where chatbots would work really well. And so initially, like in 2016, first everyone's hyped that, chatbots would replace all apps, like, even the ones that doesn't make sense to replace, like Uber. And then they became disillusioned. And then finally we saw some we saw the light at the end of the tunnel. We're seeing some use cases in marketing and in sales, like with bots automating the abandoned cart recovery for like, let's say Shopify stores, where you're getting a text instead of like an email. We're seeing, so that's the first place that they really got some value out. That was on the sales marketing side. And then that was the first re-hype of the cycle. Then about a year later, it went into voice. And then finally voice it went through the same process of everyone thinking voice is going to be the next great thing, but where are the use cases? Finally, the first use case again in voice was also marketing and sales oriented, right?
Yeah.
And that's from our good friend from VoIQ, VoIQ, right? Yeah. And then later, now it's then the next one is now customer service. So the big difference that's changed from like 2016 to 2020 is that the NLP, the underlying technology that turns conversations into actions, has gotten much, much better. So now we can actually handle a lot of good customer service use cases. Yeah. And we're seeing the majority of the technology like being used by enterprises. So it's not like apps like in the traditional sense that you would engage with like on the App Store, right? Yeah. But they end up all being like enterprise use cases where now when you go to a website, you see a little chat widget, you're talking with the chat widget instead of like surfing someone's website. Like when you're calling, when you're on the Bank of America app, maybe you're chatting with Erica, Bank of America's bot, and asking her questions instead of like calling their customer service department, and it's like $5 a call, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where we're seeing the technology evolve. That's the direction it's gone.
And so that makes a good segue into that question. I wanted to cover as the ecosystem has matured, mm-hmm. we started to see enterprise applications get more traction. Kind of expand on there. What solutions are starting to stand out and get the investment? Where are you seeing that traction? Give us some other enterprise examples that you're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so enterprise is where the technology is like really, really being taken advantage of, because these companies are at scale, right? And when they're at scale, like even if they make a 1% difference in their customer service cost, that represents tens of millions of dollars, right? So when customer service first started getting implemented by these enterprises, they would just like look at, the top 10 most asked questions, top 10 FAQs, right? And if they could automate even like just those 10 questions, it would represent like, a significant savings in their customer service cost. And the difficulty with them implementing this is that unlike apps, bots are like so open-ended, right? You could ask anything, right? When you go to someone's website, like you can only push one button, and if that fails, the developers know it. With bots, maybe someone asks questions outside the top 10 questions. So what the enterprises did is they employed this technology internally first. So what we're seeing is that a lot of bots are actually internal, the vast majority of them.
Interesting.
Yeah. And they almost act as like conversational RPAs, like robotic process automation. And they're there to service and help the employees get things done. We see this in HR departments where the HR department is helping with like hiring. The person applying for the job might talk to a bot first. The bot would ask him about their experience, ask him for any required documents like their resume, their education experience, a cover letter. The bot would read the cover letter. The bot might ask him some other questions. The bot might automatically set up the interview.
Yeah.
And this is just like the beginning of it. Some companies are even going to the next phase where now you get hired and the bot's going to give you that first 10 days or two, that first initial onboarding.
Yeah.
It's going to ask you for your W-2 documents, all these documents that go when you get first hired. Here's your employee manual, and so on. So, this is like where we're seeing bots do really well in these two areas, like customer service, both, and then also internal use cases.
Interesting. No, that's cool. That definitely resonates with some of the data I've been seeing as well, which is cool. Let's talk a little bit about impact due to the pandemic. So now, most of business life, office life has changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
And what are you seeing shifts in the ecosystem due to pandemic? Maybe there could be opportunities as well. So expand a little bit on that.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're an entrepreneur, the boom times are great, but what's better than the boom time is a crash, because it represents so much opportunity, right? And you think like Uber was started in 2008. If it was started in 2006, most likely all those people with really nice, luxury black sedans probably wouldn't have signed up to give rides to strangers. 2008, the market crashes, they don't have their job anymore. They have like, let's say a black Lexus or something like that. Now they're like, okay, I'll give this ride for $50, right? So timing is really essential. And right now what we're seeing is that a lot of companies have this dual problem of, first, their revenue shrinking because of the virus. So they're making a lot less money, but their cost expense hasn't shrunk in response to their revenue decrease, right? So they're kind of like getting hit from both sides, right? And so we're seeing a lot of companies that are starting to realize that they need to use automation as much as possible. And so the number of bots that are being implemented in enterprises is like jumping up substantially. The other thing we've seen is that like companies that started using chatbots, like Marriott, I talked to one of the VPs of Marriott like a couple years ago, and the number of bots they were creating internally was increasing by, I think, 85% month over month. So they were looking at all these internal use cases, like think of every department within a company, and about every situation in which this department requires simple task fulfillments that's centered around some level of communication, and they would create a bot for it.
Yeah.
right? If there was any sort of RPA, they would create they would add a linguistic layer and they would add a bot to it. And so now we're seeing an acceleration for that as other companies are seeing, bots as kind of like not optional anymore.
Got it. Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned RPAs, and maybe towards the end we'll make a mention about what our next conversation
Yeah.
is about on RPAs. So let's look at the future.
Yeah, let's do it.
Where's the market going? Obviously it's tacked a little bit. We have shifts, but where do you see it going right now? Where's the market headed? Okay.
So if you think about how you use the internet, you use the internet in like 3 or 4 different ways. So first, you might be looking to buy a product or service. Second, you might be looking for a specific piece of information. Third, you might be looking to diagnose something, right? Go through a process of figuring out whether you should do A or B, or for entertainment, right? You go online and we get entertained. So the way bots help is they can help on the first 3 levels. So if you're looking to buy a product or a service, in the future, that process is going to get a lot more automated. Like when you go on Google, it'll automatically know like what kind of shoes you like or what kind of hats you like. And it'll surface this information for you. Same thing with services. Like if you're searching like, I think it's called Moonlight Restaurant or something like this on Bing in Seattle, like their bot comes up in the search result. So in the future, if you need a service, you're going to ask Google. Google's going to like surface 3 or 4 options. You're going to chat with each one right from the search result page, from the SERP. You're going to figure out, based on your parameters, which one's the best for you. And then you might just hire them right without even leaving Google, which is what they would want ideally, right?
Yeah. So in the future, it's like, how can I create a virtual me and then have my virtual me represent me in buying the transactions, right? Buying me the shoes, the shirt, or people interfacing with me. They like, hey Mario, what's your schedule like to plan a meeting? And then my virtual me says, well, here's my availability, or I tell a bot and say, go buy some shoes. It knows my size, preference, and it goes automatically and buys.
Right. It's a great question. Like, are you going to have your own personal bot that's going to do things on your behalf?
Yeah.
And I think on some level you almost already do in the form of Alexa and Google Home and Siri. And all these technologies are going to do right now, they're not mature, they're immature. But what they're going to do essentially, and Alexa, Amazon particularly, is they have to figure out what your true preferences are. And once they know your true preferences, they'll know in what situations things to you are a commodity and in what situation brand matters, right? So like if you don't care about the jeans that you wear, then you're just going to tell Alexa, hey, I'm running out of jeans, and Alexa, boom, will put in the order on Amazon. It already knows your order history. It'll just order that particular pants that you like. Yeah. If brand does matter, you might say, it might ask you, did you want the Levi's?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. And right now, particularly like another area is a lot of people go online to self-diagnose, right? Like an example would be you get pulled over because you've been drinking and driving, right? And now you need like, or you get a ticket, right? And now getting a parking ticket, let's use that example. You get a parking ticket, it's complex. Like, how do you fight a parking ticket, right? Do you know all the parking ticket laws? Yeah. No. So you go and you're doing this research project online. Well, what we're already seeing is a bot, it's called Do Not Pay. It became a really popular bot. And what it would do is it would like act out this process of diagnosing the situation for you. It would ask you these questions: where did you park? Can you send me a picture? Where was the sign? And then it would automatically, on your behalf, file, a grievance for you and fight the parking ticket on your behalf.
Yeah.
We're going to see these more and more and this is where a lot of the funding is going right now, is that we're seeing this in the medical space, right? We're seeing it in bots that could do this on the side of psychology, or like Giant, GYANT. It's like a medical self-diagnosis bot. It helps you figure out like if you have coronavirus, or like should you be like how much information would a normal medical professional need to be able to diagnose you, right? Bots could replicate a lot of those requests.
Interesting. No, that's cool. Cool vision of the future, Stefan.
Thank you.
Cool. No, thanks for sharing about the future. Let's talk about the Chatbot Conference that's coming up, and share to the viewers. What do you have lined up? What topics are you going to cover this time around? And kind of just a high level overview of the conference itself. Mm-hmm. And obviously, we probably may not be in person, so it may be done virtually. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so this is our fifth event, right? And our second online. And this year we're trying to replicate the in-person experience as much as possible, which means we're going to have like networking and a virtual happy hour. So you're going to get all those like benefits that you would normally get if you went to a conference, except we're doing it virtually. And our format, I think, is the best format. What we do is that we have our event like over 3 days. And on the first day, our goal is to save you a lot of time by giving you all the most important information about bots. So imagine if you went to a conference and in that first day, you learned all the things that were the most essential. And we do it with speakers from like Google, Amazon, Salesforce, Bot Society, Rasa, like all the top companies in the space. And then we also add a lot of practitioners like from Walmart, TurboTax, and so on. So you're getting to see like how enterprises are using technology, where they're getting their ROI, right? Yeah. And then you're also learning from the platforms and from the tech leaders of where the technology is right now, where the value is and where it's going. And the way we structure our first day is that we start out by giving you like an overview of the bot ecosystem, use cases, what are the different components of it, so on. And then once you have this 30,000 foot view, we then zero in on the most important parts. So we do deep dives in like conversational design, we do deep dives in natural language processing, we do deep dives into different use cases like marketing, customer service, internal bots, etc. And we also do a deep dive in voice, RPAs, right? All the things that are the most important. And then at the end of the day, we try to bring it together with a panel that's like, okay, if you're going to launch a bot, what steps do you need to take? What kind of team do you need to organize? What's the best way for you to scale this up? Because building a bot is very, very different than building an app.
Got it.
Yeah. And then in our second and third day, you get to build the app. You get to design it and build it. Those are 2 full day workshops.
Awesome. Oh, thanks, Stefan. I'll put for listeners, I'll have links and a promo code from Stefan in the description, and definitely have links to Chatbots Life and also the Chatbot Conference that's up and coming. I do want to let you know in a couple of weeks, we'll also be doing a show on RPAs, which are robotic process automations. And I think Stefan, when in framing up this show, we wanted to cover RPAs, but I think it needs its full attention as a show on what's going on with the RPA ecosystem.
Yeah, and it's so exciting that companies are doing this, because one of the things that I think they realized is they have all this like enterprise software that no one uses, right? And they've invested millions of dollars into it. They don't want to just throw it out, and it's already integrated with everything.
Yeah.
So now bots can go on top of this enterprise software and just directly communicate with the already pre-existing software. Oh. The interface is now like conversational or text-based, which is so intuitive to us. And that's going to be a very fun conversation about conversational RPAs.
Cool. Thanks, Stefan. And look forward to our next conversation. And folks, please check out the details for more about the upcoming Chatbot Conference. Thanks, Stefan.
Yeah, likewise. Hope to see you guys there.
See you guys. Bye-bye.